Have you ever looked at Croquette's art and thought, wow, I would love to draw like that? Well, yeah, me too. Which is why I'll be stealing her style today. Okay, disclaimer. No, I'm not actually stealing anyone's art style. It's just a study. I'm planning to make a mini-series of studying art styles, and in my first one, I'll be breaking down Croquette's. More specifically, her way of rendering. Okay, so first off, who is Croquette? Croquette is a digital artist on social media who's really well known for her soft, almost dreamy rendering style. Her characters always look polished and is painted in an incredibly detailed way. She often uses a variety of colors in her shading, with her most used color probably being blue. Though this kind of style is what makes her art super recognizable. Now, I'll be breaking it down to a few parts that I want to focus on. The first one being the sketch, the second shading, the third rendering, the fourth hair, and the last one being eyes. Also, I'll be using Cypher from the game Honkai Star Rail for this illustration. Croquette's sketches are usually pretty light and clean. She doesn't go super heavy with line art. Most of the time, her sketches become the line art itself. From what I've seen in a few of her speed paints, she seems to do the line art during her rendering process. This is what most expert artists do, as these messy lines from the sketch actually makes the base more flexible for painting later. It covers a lot of the structure. Think of it as a scaffolding that you can easily hide under a new layer of paint. As most artists say, make it exist first, you can make it good later. The liner I did wasn't all too clean, as it's technically what I'm comfortable with. Again, I won't be entirely taking her process, and will still implement my ways of illustrating. Here is the finished sketch. Her shading is really soft and layered. Instead of plain shadows, she builds them up gradually with a variety of colors, almost like she's glazing colors on top of each other. You'll notice she uses desaturated, slightly cooler tones in the shadows, which makes the warm areas like skin or highlights pop more. It's subtle, but it gives that breathable look rather than flat shading. My own work I first colored in my character with softer and lighter colors as they're meant to be hit with light. I then determined a light source beforehand and used a multiply layer to add in the shadows. I added in a few variations of color throughout the shading, with colors like yellow and blue being slightly applied so that it isn't entirely flat. The yellow is mainly for the bounce light, and as for the blue, well, but yeah, that's basically it. Here's the result. Now this is the fun part, her rendering. It honestly feels buttery smooth, yet still has a feeling of candy. She blends the edges carefully but still leaves a few harder edges where she wants focus, like around the nose, eyes, or clothing folds. The trick is not blending everything to mush. Instead, she balances soft gradients with deliberate brush strokes, which keeps the piece from looking plasticky. Aside from that, she also uses a bunch of colors. Look at this piece. How many colors do you see? Over 5 different hues and contrasting. This is what I mean, as Croquette always adds a ton of detail through her colors and various shades, from dark blues, pinks, oranges, and much more. Through this, her art looks intricate and colorful. She also does the same for skin, although less complex. She uses a less saturated color for skin, then adding in a blue hue in areas near the eyes. Something of this shape. There is also a light yellow color that usually radiates from below, most likely being the bounce light from her skin that is hit with the sun. And to top it all off is the terminator of the skin, which is the orange hue. From this knowledge, I too used a variety of colors that were related to the character specifically, like blues, purples, grays, which are from Cypher herself, and cream colors from her skin. I also did the same for the skin, additionally adding in darker colors for occlusion shadows. Once I finished, I layered it with line art. That's basically my thought process throughout, and honestly, this is also one of the hardest sections that I've done. This is a separate part because I want to discuss a little bit more about the flow and grouping of the hair, although it will be a little bit shorter than the others. Her hair rendering is super flowy. She doesn't draw every single strand. Instead, she clumps the hair into big shapes and then blends inside those clumps, alongside a few harder edges on the hair. Then, she adds selective sharp strands on top to suggest texture. That way, it looks soft and voluminous without being overwhelming. Additionally, the line art for her hair has variation, with thicker lines in areas that collide, and thinner lines elsewhere. Now the last part I want to discuss are her eyes. Her eyes are arguably one of her strongest features. They're glossy but not over-rendered. Usually, she separates her iris into 3 parts, from what I've seen. The top, the center, and the bottom is what I'll call them. The top is where the shadow is. It's usually shaped based off the eyelashes and has bounce light coming from around the area. The center is for less saturated color of the eye, and the bottom is for a more highly saturated or lighter color. This paints a clear gradient from dark at the top to lighter at the bottom from afar. Then, she also adds in crisp highlights to make them shine. The shadows of the eyelashes and eyelid also frame the eyes, which gives them more depth. Something unique with her way of illustrating eyelashes is that she layers the actual lashes from the eyelid and separates them through color contrasts. But, to sum it up, she makes her eyes glow without throwing in 20 sparkles. So, if you want to try painting like Croquette, here are a few tips that I have personally found. The first one is to keep your sketch simple. Don't stress over making it look perfect, but instead just use it as a guide for your coloring and then afterwards rendering. Remember, make it exist first, you can make it good later. Number 2 is to think soft when shading. It's quite odd to think of that, but from what you can see in Croquette's style, most of the time they look extremely soft. When I say this, I mean that you should build your shadows gradually and try mixing in cooler tones to contrast with your highlights and make your shadows look warmer. The third one is to balance your rendering. Blend most areas smoothly, but also leave in a few hard edges where you want the eye to focus. Then the final one is to use a dark to light gradient, frame them with lashes, and then add a highlight or two to make them pop. And that's it. Here is my final painting. Of course, this isn't about copying, this is just a study. The idea is to break down what you admire in someone's style, so you can learn from it and eventually mix it into your own. Please let me know what other artist styles you want me to steal from, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!